The aggressor country, Russia, is unable to produce new MiG-31K fighters, which are carriers of Kinzhal aeroballistic missiles, so any losses are acute for it. This is what the military-analytical portal Defense Express, analyzing the Russian occupiers' capabilities in this type of aircraft against the background of the AFU General Staff's report on the attack on the Savasleika airfield. Recall, General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that on the night of June the 9th, 2025, the Special Operations Forces, in cooperation with other components of the Defense Forces of Ukraine, struck the Savasleika airfield and hit at least one MiG-31 and one Su-30/34. Analysts noted that during the war against Ukraine, the Russian Federation tried to build up the MiG-31K fleet. Thus, if at the beginning of 2022, the aggressor country had 12 airplanes of this type, according to some reports, in 2024, the Russian Federation could have up to 24 MiG-31K. In addition, Defense Express adds, it is also worth bearing in mind the information about the appearance of the Russians of MiG-31I Ishim type aircraft. Basis for building up the fleet of MiG-31K and MiG-31I Ishim could be some number of MiG-31s in storage, which, as of 2018, was estimated at 130 to 150 aircraft. However, the publication emphasizes it could predominantly serve as a spare parts graveyard to maintain a fleet of MiG-31B/BM interceptors. The Defense Express also recalled that serial production of MiG-31s stopped in 1993. A total of 500 such airplanes were produced, of which only 150 remain in service now. This demonstrates rather low endurance of MiG-31 in combination with Russian maintenance culture, analysts noted. A separate problem for the Russians is the D-30F6 engines used on the MiG-31. These engines have a service life of only 300 hours, and if in 2014 representatives of the Russian military-industrial complex announced the accumulated stock of D-30F6 for 20 to 30 years, then in 2024 they started talking about the need to completely resume production of such power plants. Based on current data from the Ministry of Defense's GUR, the Russian military-industrial complex currently produces about 10 to 15 Kinzhal missiles per month, with an accumulated stock of 100 units. From this military facility in particular, regularly take off MiG-31K fighters, which are carriers of Kinzhal aeroballistic missiles, the General Staff noted. Preliminary data show that 2 units of enemy aircraft were hit at the airfield. They are likely to be MiG-31 and Su-30/34 airplanes.
Russia is expanding its military footprint in Africa, delivering sophisticated weaponry to sub-Saharan conflict zones where a Kremlin-controlled armed force is on the rise. On May 31st, dozens of heavy vehicles carrying armored vehicles and other military equipment returned to Mali's capital, Bamako. This equipment had passed through the port of Conakry, Guinea's capital, before returning to Mali, a major Russian ally in the Sahel region. Skirting sanctions imposed by Western nations, Moscow is using cargo ships to send tanks, armored vehicles, artillery and other high-value equipment to West Africa, the Associated Press has found. Mali has been facing a political and security crisis for over 10 years after a military regime took power through 2 coups d'état in 2020 and 2021. There is a void in the Sahel left by the departure of Western states, especially by the French, the United States, and other European countries. So this is an opportunity for Russia that is going to cost them basically almost nothing, said Raida Layamuri, a Sahel expert at the Morocco-based Policy Center for the New South. Relying on satellite imagery and radio signals, AP tracked a convoy of Russian-flagged cargo ships as they made a nearly one-month journey from the Baltic Sea. The ships carried howitzers, radio jamming equipment and other military hardware, according to military officials in Europe who closely monitored them. The deliveries could strengthen Russia's fledgling Africa Corps as Moscow competes with the United States, Europe and China for greater influence across the continent. The two-year-old Africa Corps, which has links to a covert branch of Russia's army, is ascendant at a time when US and European troops have been withdrawing from the region, forced out by sub-Saharan nations turning to Russia for security. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have been battling fighters linked with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group for more than a decade. Armed groups in Mali have inflicted heavy losses on Malian troops and Russian mercenaries. The Al-Qaeda-linked group JNIM killed dozens of soldiers in an attack this month on a military base. Insurgents also killed dozens of Russia-backed Wagner mercenaries in northern Mali last July. At first, mercenary groups with an arm's-length relationship to the Kremlin entered the fray in Africa. But increasingly, Russia is deploying its military might, and intelligence services, more directly. For years, French forces supported counterinsurgency operations in Mali and neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. But France pulled out its troops after coups in Mali in 2020 and 2021, in Burkina Faso in 2022 and Niger in 2023. Wagner Group, the most notable, deployed to Sudan in 2017 and expanded to other African countries, often in exchange for mining concessions. It earned a reputation for brutality, accused by Western countries and UN. Experts of human rights abuses, including in Central African Republic, Libya and Mali.
There is a void in the Sahel left by the departure of Western states, especially by the French, the United States, and other European countries. So this is an opportunity for Russia that is going to cost them basically almost nothing. Not nothing, but it's an easy win that it's not going to require a lot of resources to be mobilized to exert that influence in the region. Russia's presence through its mercenary group Wagner in Mali is different than its presence in Burkina Faso and Niger. So in Mali, Wagner are fighting with the Malian military side by side. And if we want to assess, I think they have helped them to recapture northern regions from rival groups, but at the same time they continue to struggle in its fight against GNM and the Islamic State, as we have seen in the recent weeks with the repeated attacks in the different parts of the country. The bad things that we have seen is also this extrajudicial killings and the human rights violations against populations that are seen to either support or be collaborating with jihadist groups. And because of that reason, I think Burkina Faso and Niger, they are still hesitant on how they want to collaborate with Wagner or Russia in general.